So head off immediately onto the southern plains, which is absolutely infested with shades now. And while we're here, I neglected to show this off earlier because there wasn't really much of an opportunity. This is Dark Whirlwind, the magic that we picked up from Grimoire Rubrum. What it does is creates these spikes around you, up to 4 of them, for about 30 seconds, and it just deals damage to any enemies that are within their range. It's pretty good range. Not substantial damage, although I haven't equipped any words to this, so that doesn't help either. And, it has its uses, but I'm not a big fan of it. So we're going to be sticking with Phantasm for all of our crowd clearing needs. And that's why. Whirlwind, interestingly, is one of the ones that's really based on the boss that you got it from. A quick little upgrade there. As you remember, Rubrum only had 2 attacks, so it was basically ramming and making the whirlwind of pages. Some of the sealed verses are actually related to what you're doing, like Dark Hand came from Hook, who has that tendency to try and, punch you with his tail. Dark Execution came from a tree. Phantasm also came from Hook, which isn't related to anything he does. Wall at least came from Shariar, which was all about breaking through defenses. Blast, just kind of a thing. Lance came... Well, no, actually, Blast came from the tiny little shades, where they have the shade shamans that fire tiny dark blasts at you. And... Wait.
I'm gonna kill you.
Calm yourself. Haste will only lead you to making an ill-timed mistake. An unstable heart is the worst armor one can have.
No time for that, Vice. I gotta get to Yona.
Where was I? Right, Lance came from Hansel and Gretel, which both have lances. Gluttony came from an enemy where you have to throw things in his mouth to kill him. I don't know, it almost makes sense. I'm glad you enjoyed that tangent. If you didn't, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, whole point of this is just slaughtering shades to get to Emil's mansion. Now, I mentioned before that Emil's letter suggests very heavily that he's actually had a decent 5 years while the rest of the world's gone to hell. So, let's see how that's treating him.
Welcome, sir. Master Emil is waiting in his chambers.
Oh, hey there, guys!
Hey there, Emil. How goes the search for a cure?
Nothing yet, but I did find this.
It's treating him kinda short. Anyway, we now have some documents. Documents, if you notice, from 2026. Documents about method to control and or cancel all forms of magic, which goes out of its way to mention petrification and bestial transformation. And something about numbers and courtyard entrance.
There's a section of this manor called the planning room, and I think...
You think this room will let you harness the ability to control all forms of magic, correct?
Actually, yeah. Or even if it doesn't, something there might point us in the right direction.
Sounds like a plan.
There's an entrance in the courtyard. It's not far.
All right, let's go find it.
If this room truly contains the power to control all magic, I can use it to cure my eyes.
It would also allow us to free Kaine from her petrified condition.
Wow, Vice. I didn't think you cared.
Perhaps this tome is getting a bit sappy in his old age.
It should be right around here somewhere.
So, am I the only one that's concerned about the fact that he's still 12? 5 years later.
Is this it?
I guess so.
Warning, this facility... I can't read the rest. Something about a seal.
If someone bothered to attach a warning to this room, I doubt they will appreciate us forcing our way inside.
Emil, what is it?
Nothing. It's nothing, I'm fine.
Yeah, minor brain aneurysms are nothing to be concerned about, I'm sure. Alright. This is a hell of a basement. This is a hell of a basement and it is infested with shades. Like the rest of this house was before, actually. This is obviously not a basement. This area is called the Underground Research Laboratory, or the Underground Facility. You might notice, desks, beds, computer terminals. There's actually a lot of interesting detail in the background here, which I personally did not notice until I got the HD cables for this. And suddenly, oh, I can see. We also have a mostly pointless map, but most of the maps in the game are pretty pointless. This dungeon is really the main reason that I pick up the Phoenix Spear as soon as possible. It's not so much that I need the extra attack power, as it is that I want the extra attack power in the form of a spear. This area is crawling with shades, and later on they come in very, very thick clusters, droves of them. So it's ideal to be able to just destroy them really quickly and keep moving at the same time. I suppose I could accomplish this with the any two-handed sword and its spinning attack, but two-handed swords are too slow for my taste. Speaking of two-handed swords, what we just picked up is the Fang of the Twins. This is actually the Drakengard weapon, originally called the Twins Fang, with a very original name. And I actually know the weapon story to this one, both of them. The original weapon story was that one of the gods in the Drakengard universe was very displeased with humanity, as most of the gods are all the time, I assume, and made them show their penance by sacrificing twins. The twins were then turned into stars, and then the stars were sealed in the axe, making the whole star-making process kind of pointless. It's kind of a weak story, but the Nier version is that there's a set of twins who are murdered separately by their parents, for reasons that are not explained within the story, but I'm sure made perfect sense at the time. But despite being murdered separately, their blood ran together into the metal that forged the axe, thus uniting them in one body, albeit in the form of a weapon. So that's your trivia for the day.
What's this? A scrap of paper?
The gimmick of this dungeon, if you haven't noticed yet, is, oh dear God, what is that thing? Sorry. Oh, I'm never going to be able to stop. This report was written on Christmas 2025. I assume Christmas didn't go that well.
It would Here, this used to be some manner of magical laboratory.
This must have been where I was...
Emil,
I'll be okay. We need to keep going. I'm sorry.
Like I was saying before I got distracted, the gimmicks of this dungeon are the massive number of enemies. You're never going to find shades in this kind of concentration again, really. The key cards, which can be a little bit tricky if you don't realize you can actually maneuver the camera like that. And to be honest, you, this is a problem that I had and that I've actually heard of other people having. The other thing being, of course, the documents that we're picking up. And the other thing, which we haven't really seen in action yet, but we will in the coming room, is... oh, nice. This is a bit of an escort mission. Emil is never targeted by enemies and effectively invulnerable, as he was before. And he still has his petrification one-hit kill. Unfortunately, at the very, very beginning of the dungeon, Vice says, don't let the kid fall too far behind. And this means that if you get too far ahead of him in the dungeon, Vice will begin yelling at you. I'm pretty sure it'll happen in very short order. Because Emil has a tendency to get stuck behind some of the walls in this room. Wait for it. Okay, never mind, don't wait for it. What this does is it pauses you for a minute to let him yell at you. And if you don't heed Vice's warning and get closer to Emil and just keep going on ahead, he says that he's too far behind, and you want teleporting back to the first section of the dungeon. Not the first section, the first section of the floor of the dungeon. It's not quite that bad. I don't believe that enemies will respawn after this happens, but it's a bit of an annoyance and a bit of a slog just to run back to where you were, so... Yeah. So it's in your best interest to not try and get too far ahead. What I did here, obviously, was do some word upgrading. What I notice, and now that I'm actually watching these videos again and not playing the game, is that I never at any point fixed up my magic. So I'm still going around with the, I think the +5 word, maybe +8. I don't know, either way, not ideal. It kinda comes back to bite me. But that's not for another, 20 minutes? It's not even in this video. And while I'm here, I believe I didn't really get a chance to properly explain the little red-rimmed guys. This is a mechanic that was back in Drakengard. You would have particular red enemies that were immune or, yeah, they were immune to magic, and when you attacked them with magic yourself, they would retaliate with murderous attacks. I think that they just did so much damage you wound up getting killed because you accidentally used magic on them. And it's not as bad in Nier. You can't use magic on them. If you do, they retaliate with little dark blasts. They're relatively easily avoided. They're the dark ones, though, the black ones instead of the red ones. So you can't really defend against them, and you can't use magic to tear through them. It's more of an annoyance than anything. They don't do significant damage, they're not going to kill you. I mention this in this dungeon in particular because Emil is an asset to you. I mean, anything that can one-hit kill the other shades when there's just so many of them is going to be an asset. But his petrification attack is considered magic. He won't use it on these things, so it won't trigger any sort of retaliatory strike. But that means that he kind of becomes dead weight when you have a lot of them together. Fortunately, I think that last little section I was in is basically where they're the most prevalent. I mean, there's still scattered around, but this is really the point where you're going to see the most of them. It's a bit annoying because, you know, it's Emil's dungeon, really. And those are test tubey things, and I glitched the roof away. Stasis tubes? Are those stasis tubes? I don't know. And anyway, this is a bit of an annoyance, because, you know, like I said, this is kind of Emil's dungeon. Like, this is where he's going to get the most, use at this point. And, you know, you're down here for, him. You're down here for Kaine by way of him. So, it kind of cancels out a lot of his utility. That's okay, though. He's still quite useful, not... Oh. This is the silliest keycard. Yep, that was worth it. But yeah, he's still useful. You can't really see it so much here because I have such an overpowered weapon. But if you're going through here with lesser weapons, or if you're still just adamant about using one-handed swords, he's a major asset. And that thing died so quickly I could barely even register it was there. Obviously he's not a major asset on the big things, because he can't petrify those either, but not a big deal. There's also some shades over here. I think at this point I was just going for clearing out the rooms. Vice! Stop! He's right there. Direct line of sight. I think he won't get lost. Okay, I want you all to acknowledge this. Long-term storage. Progress report, both those involving projects. The third budget concern, building a mansion.
Project number 6. Was this some sort of weapons laboratory?
Something from the old world, I guess.
What was I doing here?
I have doubts as to whether or not Emil will be able to continue.
I'm fine. Let's just go.
I'm just saying, one of those things kinda stands out to me. But I would have loved to be there for the budget hearing. He's right there, Vice. So, of course, I'm sure everybody has taken note of the very unsubtle way that this is playing out. We're getting these odd documents about weapons research. Emil's having headaches. I think it's terribly clear at this point that he was one of the researchers from back then, doing strange experiments on mansions. I know, quite a twist. I didn't see it coming either. I won't give the game this. For as obvious as I shouldn't even say obvious, for as typical as it's doing this amnesia thing, it never really focused on the amnesia before. Like, he forgot, it's just a thing, never bring it up. This room kinda creeps me out. Wow, it's a lot of shades all at once. Like I said, spears destroying everything needed. The interesting thing about this room, I think, is that it's not... If we assume what's actually going on is related to, you know, children, kidnapping, experiments, things like that, these rooms are... It looks like it's made for much younger kids. which is a little bit disconcerting. Little bit disconcerting.
Hey, Emil. You sure you're okay?
I'm a weapon? What does that even mean? What am I?
It seems as if he's trying to remember something.
You're going to be okay.
Am I? Am I really?
Your past makes no difference. We'll support you no matter what.
At any rate, you would hardly be the first member of our merry band to have issues.
You poor kid. You are a 12-year-old in a game made by Cavia. You know this isn't gonna end well.